So you were inside when the pastor, I'm going to start recording, Lynn, because it's the best way to take notes these days. Sometimes I listen to myself on a recording and I record myself listening to the recording.
Cool.
I'm just that far out. When he was talking about mic drops and everything,
Yeah.
right? And so much here that everybody who comes here to worship on such a beautiful day here in the infinitely new year is...
Have a good one, Insect.
Sorry, and I'm not going to bite off more than I can chew here, but the best mic drop I almost interrupted with, forgive them, Father, they know not what they do.
Yep.
And that goes along with the vine and the community and the fruit metaphor of that we're all surpluses and reservoirs of sort of forgiveness.
Well, it's like my sister-in-law. She is to preach one thing out of one side of her mouth and do something completely opposite. And
But
turn around
truly
and
the
tell my mom.
power of knowing in God's presence is that we can forgive each other from moving from one thing to the other, that we know that we can survive and thrive.
I turned around and I told her, I said, Mom, you kept preaching to us and telling us all about the Ten Commandments. I said, so let me throw something at you. I said, I don't know where it is in the Bible, but let me quote this part. It's where Jesus was kneeling down and a prostitute came to him, and I said, the town wanted to stone her. I said, so he told the gang.
Oh yeah, she's kneeling.
He turned around, he told the gang, if you are without sin, go ahead and throw the first stone.
Right, so that's why you have mercy on your family?
I said, so this is what I want you to tell Diane. Quit throwing stones at my family if you can't keep your house in order.
Whammy.
Yes.
Super concussive. Wow.
And
well
she
cited.
She turned around and she started believing lies from other people that I knew when I was growing up. And I had one girl that I went to elementary school, junior high, and high school with. And she made accusations toward me. I'm sitting there going, no. Well, see, I didn't become a Christian until I was in my 30s. Late 30s, early 40s. I'm 62.
Wow. It's funny how we can be born from...
Not born for a second time, but not born for the second time in Christ.
The way that I play with words is you're born in every moment.
You are. Have a good week.
It's very infinite.
Is this for you?
Bye, sweetie.
It's the circus. It's the carnival, all wild animals alike.
Mom,
Woo!
get
Woo!
him into the car and away from this pollen.
There is so muchness. So that's the sort of amazing forgiveness that we find in the ultimate sacrifice of the Son, so that we can all experience eternity with the you-ness that is the universe of the Father.
Dropped the bomb on her and I said, you can't preach one thing and then turn around and do something else. I said, it's not right.
In fact, it's the only thing that's contradictory.
Yeah. Well, she was quote-unquote a born-again Christian, and I'm sitting there, okay, sometimes that's the worst time because that's when you can, looks like here we come.
Well, you know what they say. Voltaire said, there's only one Christian, and they crucified him. Oh, sorry, I can't join you, but thank you, Linda. It was a great pleasure to quote. I've got to talk to the pastor.
Do you know Keegan or Tiana? Yeah, he's pretty good.
The power of the pastor presiding so prominently, so pertinently, so exquisitely, with such expertise in the universe, in all natural laws of E equals MC squared, and this aqueous language of gaseous sort of proportions, which we illustrate exochemical architectures to each other. I'm taking notes of this as I wasn't recording the lecture, but I don't know, is it recorded?
Yes.
It is recorded, so that's of greatest exponential efficiencies of the cerebral, cybernetic realities of virtual reality. So let me know when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Oh, okay. Would you like to have a seat or something? Yeah. I mean, I'd love to preside over. Woo, woo, feel the angel wings. Feel the everything. Let's be heightened perspectives. Yeah. I didn't want to face to face the wall, but whatever's casual. whatever is in the meta mantra of the omni-morphogenic field of humanity, and as we really transition here into mankind, in the infinitely new year that we have. Pastor Ryan.
Yep.
Ryan. Wonderful, wonderful. I am Sean, William Joseph Sebastian Bach Harrington, and I've been up since 5:30 this morning. If you're ready, my dreams.
Yep.
So I was in this beautiful, much like this architecture, and much like, maybe not much like, but imagine about that distance, there's someone who knows that I have just inherited a church, and they are the tribesmen of all else. So there's the church here, and then there's everything else. And he sort of was expressing through tablature that he understood minerals, water, electricity, archery, all the skills. And I think that that's really what I wanted to simplify from the lecture. But why I didn't interrupt, because I knew that you think that Ryan, you also respect that this is a Christ community, Christ Church.
Yeah.
Would you say that you love the rest of the outside world more because of everything that you've learned here?
Oh, I think so.
And this instigates and inspires and synergizes that experience, right? So I agreed with this tribesman as well. And he was stern, and sort of the matrix of the dream changed, where all of a sudden we were floating above the church. And as I turned to my left, there was a jellyfish, and him being Poseidon early of the seas, I was like, oh, this treasure. And the matrix of the dream continued to change, and all of a sudden, I didn't realize that there was an aqueousness that wasn't water, that wasn't swimmable. It was like a jelly, it was like a quicksand, and I somehow also had a child with me at that point. And when I went to the jellyfish, it was this beautiful masterpiece of life. I fell into the jelly. And I waited there in the dream, racing for solutions. So they're the masters of water. They understand this matrix. They can get me out. Of course, it's just a dream.
Right.
So they didn't need to drop a rock tied to a rope so I could climb the child out. But yeah, that's, you really bring it home here. And this whole, there's the vine and fruit, and community is the fruit. So I was writing down in my notes so much about how we can be reservoirs and surpluses of forgiveness, because that initial point of forgive them, they don't know not what they do, is almost immune to that assumption that we have eternal life, literally, because of the sacrifice of God. It's more the figurative presence of God is the knowing. Forgive them, all iterations of themness, itness, witness, and the ofness and the arness of this. For they know what they do. It's the operant phrase is that we always have that presence of knowing. Everybody knows the universality forever. And what I wrote at the top of my page was forevermore. That's really the spirit, that we can forgive each other forevermore, because we know that what community produces is fruit. That God is essentially that natural world that we harvest, and is continually cultivated and domesticated by us, so that we can harvest it more efficiently, so that we ourselves cannot be so much domesticated as set totally loose.
Right.
To not be tied down, but to be loosened by that world, to be not only owners of the church, but so much that the everything is love, that the authority is love. But even love is not the authority. The vine of Jesus is not the authority. The true authority is what we share. Everything is what we share in one moment. The outrageousness of the Zen and Tao, of the then and now, that we are equals MC squared, that we are temporal beings harvesting and producing so much. So if you allow me, Ryan, have I entertained you?
Yes. Yeah.
We are the quotient and the remainder of this universe of presence and knowing, that we're truly scholarly. As the alchemist of knowing here. So the most hysterical that I wrote on the final page is, why are we given anything at all, ever? And it's everything, always, and it's never at all less. but always and always more. As it's not, so many people like to say, oh, everything happens for a reason. But that's their own sanity, their own vision. It's that everything happens for every reason. And it's here that we're sort of the conscientious caretakers of conscientiousness, the relators of relativity. And then it sort of leads me back to the omni-meta mantra of love is authority. But what we share is everything. That sharing is caring, that because literally everything that we ever experience is, we are what we eat, we're leading by example, to practice what we preach, that we can't ever not be cultured, that we're always cultured, we're never outside of culture, that we always forgive each other, we move from one moment to the next moment. And thank you so much for giving me an audience here in your castle, as we're sort of a good 10 minutes into the 11th minute, or excuse me, the 7th minute, because we were in the 4th minute when we started the 7th. So the breath from beginning is really what you gave me today. That original. Some woman came to me when I was posting on Facebook about how God always gives us the intelligence to move from one situation to the other. There's the voodoo that believes in what you do, to use the architecture of chemical words, and E equals MC squared. So that original saying, she said, I was quoting to her, I wonder, in the highest hierarchy of words, wonder, literally the luxury that we have is being able to just think. It's immense modernity that we can wish, we can bask and dream. So wonder, wishing, dreaming, and then we find these things funny. And through the fruit of Christ, there's one quote that I'm trying to evoke. Anyway, it leads us back to God gives us the presence and the knowing, the capacity and the ability to choose correctly. We're always equipped with the intelligence as dreamers to be, alien to each other, yet to embrace that alienness, to reside in sameness, and yet to blossom because of difference. So we learn from that thriving. We give each other the intelligence to survive and learn to thrive from and forth from the moment at hand. Are we comfortable?
Yeah, I'm going to have to leave, though. I have some things I have to get done.
May God forgive them. They know not what they do. I really wanted to evoke how I wanted to interrupt with, we can have a surplus and reservoir of knowing forgiveness. Of knowing of forgiveness and Jesus's fruitful way, that's what the community is, that fruit of Jesus. And I'm really struggling to evoke some of your quotes, so I wondered for my recording if any really mantras of the meta, omni.
You can go on the website.
I know, I have the pamphlet outside, and I will go over some of those.
Yeah.
So the last thing that I thought I might conclude with, and thank you, Ryan. It's such a pleasure to meet you today.
Absolutely.
I'm Sean. We know in the surplus of the natural world, everything outside the church, coincidentally, that mistakes will be made for joy of exploration, and that the greater dynamic world will be okay, survive, and will thrive. That's sort of the momentum that you seem to say in conclusion, that everything's not static.
Right.
That's why I wrote dynamic. I'm sort of this other side of you. It's my epitome of joy to wake up from all is not the church, to conclude, as here we, epitome of opposites, resonate with the heavenly masculine here, the divine feminine, how is the wife? This is our marriage to know it, to really represent the best of wishes, of dreams, etc. for our people. So, I mean, that loses me a little bit in expressing the moment, but all is the sacrifice, that we give to.
Yeah, because
I guess.
I think she's got some.
All right, got any announcements, so it's good to sit down and talk and hear some of it.
So yeah, all I was going to iterate back to is that everything, that authority only exists in what we love, that everything is what we share, by everything being shared through us, the knowing presence of God, that we are always in the outrageous spontaneity of the community, the fruit, the bounty of the moment, and that it's always bountiful. It's not that there's anything here, but we've sort of been excreted out of the Garden of Eden, from all of these wonderful, we are what we eat, we are practicing what we preach, we lead by example, obligatorily, into literally finding anything, everything. And so from the flaming sword that cuts down the abundance, we have the capacity to be more than monkeys, and to literally not only have the church, but we have every authority of everyone's universe of love. And so I just wanted to resonate with you, super synergize with you, and apologize for not forgiving you, because where we exist in there is your church. But more so, it's this table of, you have all these fruits of Christ, and it's very specific. And I am born Roman Catholic, so I would be in harmony there. But everything presiding normally, we're under hierarchies and layers of this superfood of the onion here. We're in a fruit. And so this is very much the university, this church. It's a different layer than my dreams, but I didn't, in my wildest imaginations, imagine that I might domesticate such a space with such a familiar face. I thought I'd be intimidated by the more elder pastor. I'm a good quarter century myself, and I've been caffeinated to be rocket fuel here, and as we reach about a 1 and a 3 in the balance of the 13th to the 14th, what is the time for the 1 and 3 of the very phallic and the very curvaceous. If we only had 8 minutes, we might not have reached Mount Everest, the great infinity of 8 minutes. But this is what I wake up for, and this is what I sleep for. At the same time, I am sort of, whenever I see a point, I've lived all over the place, so I see everything as, when I see one point, it's point of symmetry with everything else in the world. There's this incredible, all matter is energy, but only we make energy matter. That everything complex is incredibly sacred, correlatory to how sacred it is, and in the same relationship with how true it is, it's familiar, with how vulnerable it is, it's very sensitive. And as humanity, we are transitioning now to humankind. And when did anyone ever not become part of everyone? But you are literally the epitome of the most angelic here, and I am literally the epitome of the other side of the coin. If you are heads, I am tails, and it's lovely, truly, to just because we live in light, and almost in the fire, only illuminates with its shadow, that we bask in the glory of, what can we share, and the love of authority is, what can we share with other people, and it's really difficult to, really harvest the best of stuff, but the juice is always worth the squeeze, that we rest in resistance, that we stay specific. It's the path of greatest reward, the path of greatest joy, and the cosmic fulfillment of self-harmony, that we really are, we put ourselves in empathy into others' shoes so that we can, it's almost like a superpower of sympathy, of getting into imagination, and that greatest wishing and dreaming, and whatever I listed earlier, we sort of dream so that we can awaken. Everything is matter, only we make energy matter. So thank you so much for sitting down with me.
Hope you have a good week.
Yes, I will make the best of it.
Yeah.
And you do the same.
Yep. Hope to see you soon.
Right on. I'll be returning. I don't know. Are you presiding the same over next week's
Every
class?
week.
Got it.
The senior pastor.
Okay. Well, I would follow you if you were coming back at this time. Is it like an every other week kind of?
Once a month usually that I preach.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Right on. Powerful stuff today. Glad to catch you coincidentally.
Yeah,
You know,
thanks.
there's a coincidence
Yes, absolutely.
there. So thank you.
Yes.
You know, as I thanked all the women for being so beautiful. I was like, oh, they thanked me for complimenting them. I was like, I am in the process of gratitude, you know, and being in gratitude. So once again,
Thank you.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Beautiful. Thanks, Ryan. So I'm just going to hurry and scurry over to the notes of the service. Is that the good stuff?
Delaney, you go help because you're actually doing a good job helping.
Okay.
Okay? And I'm gonna go see if I can find Miss Heather. Ooh, be careful, babe. How are we doing? Hey, we're good. Good. Get me tense up. There's nobody to really tell anybody what to do.
Okay.
The best, because that last area had a rope coming diagonally through it.
There are going to be sides
So-
up to the tent, just like there are for the consignment sale, though.
Okay, well,
that's
So I
why
just
not
love
being
this
careful.
direct. 'cause we
whole
have a whole bunch of Indian
vine, branches,
Okay.
fruit, community
I'm gonna go look for Heather.
analogy. This whole, I am the vine, I am. You could almost change the punctuation so that it's pronounced, I am the vine of consciousness. You know, the Godhead of presence and knowing exists in all of us, always, permanently. You are is the branches, and it reads, you are the branches. It continues, if you remain in me and I remains in you, you will bear much fruit. It's like the most romantic thing. It's about the harmony of procreation. If you synergize with another individual, then your infinity will become a singularity of doubled infinity or divinity. And really more so than that, it all loops to the same spiral of the lesson. Love is authority, but really everything is what we share. And the all story, the everything that is sharing with us is caring. And so we come to life, we dream, we wish, we find things funny, we postulate, we theorize, but really we are the vine. And in interacting with each other, we branch from being vines, which a vine doesn't do. You know, a tree branches, but a vine really just vines. Vine is its own energy. If you remain in me, and I remain in you, and I in you, you will bear much fruit. And this is how I ended my other poetry this morning. I am coming into you. You are coming into me. I'm the slow angel babe. Something about progeny. I'm coming into you, you're coming into me. I'm the slow angel babe. And my touch is gray, ace. It's a song. So the enunciation and the pronunciation is supposed to reside in gray, the grayness of grace. So I understand that I'm reaching a 25th minute as I am here in omni-metamorphogenic respect of the 25th measure being 25 years old. but really this interview with the pastor has been very centering. And there's more to his pronunciation of these analogies of wonderful. There's all this energy of Christ is the community. These people believe that the sacrificing of the Son leads to eternal life and the eternal sanity of Eunice. And that is in the knowing presence of the power of God. That love is the authority, and that we share that evermore. Everything that we share in the present moment is more outrageous than the love that is the authority that we all share. So that's fun. I'm going to navigate inside and stew over some notes. Maybe I don't pause myself here. Drink my coffee. That is awesome. You rock. You rock, literally the mantra of duality, of punning, not only being solid and, a good reservoir and a surplus of forgiveness, of moving from one moment to the other and residing in the community of thriving fruits, but also the ability to rock. Not only being a rock, but rocking. Back and forth. So what is it that we have here? Coincidentally, this is actually omni-meta morphogenic matrix stuff that I'm just going to read from accidentally flipping back a little bit far. All is well. You can help. Let me start a little bit slower. All is well. You can help. Bettering is what it is. Bettering is what it is. And really what I mean by it is the very crux of every single moment that we're finding a bettering best in the surplus of community and that reservoir of the natural world and being the sacrifice of the Son from one moment to the other, that bettering is what it is, that we're bettering each other's trust of moving from one moment to the next and knowing that the world will be okay, will thrive and survive. To wrap this up succinctly, you are not alone. It all happens reasonably and explainably. That we are great conscientious caretakers of consciousness and relators of reliability and relativity. So stay sharp, stay specific. Everybody's got enough. Rest and resistance. The juice is always worth the squeeze. And that's sort of the Zen and Tao of the omni-meta then and now of moving from one point to the next. Hi, excuse me, I'm recording. If I can have a moment, could you go over my notes? But I'm here for you, sister.
Okay.
All is well, you can help. Bettering is what it is, and you are not alone. It all happens reasonably and explainably. I love that so much, because before I got here, I had kind of written that. Coincidentally, I'm flipping to a really good page here as we get into the 30th minute. The communal God is knowing and presence, that harmony of what is in between us, the cognitive dissonance. I almost interrupted initially this service when the pastor talked about mic drop moments, and what's the best way to say a going away speech? And I said, Jesus' own is forgive them. They know not what they do. Leading us back to cognition of forgiveness being the omni-meta morphogenic choice word to express how we interact with each other. And similarly, how our God, if there is a God, in his knowing presence interacts with us in the giving us eternity, that we have to learn to forgive ourselves for what we have done and what we have not done. In Jesus' request to him, God, forgive them, they know not. They know not what they do. So this knowing what we're doing is an incredibly important tier of the omni-meta lesson of leading by example, of practicing what we preach. So I wanted to iterate, I wanted to stand up in the middle of Mass and say, forgive them, they know not what they do. In the knowing presence of God, we can have a surplus and a reservoir of knowing, forgiveness, and Jesus' fruitful way of leading by example and practicing what we preach. As the girls run gaily and the synchronicity is upon us, the serendipity also led me this morning to say, July 10th, we know in the surplus and of the natural world that mistakes will be made for the joy of exploration, and the greater dynamic world will be okay, survive and thrive, that it's not so much about me or you. Jesus' ministry is the pivot around which fruit can be community, I think, is the answer. Not so much about me or you, but I amness being the vine, the regenerative kingdom of plant life that is always giving, synonymous with the branches of you are, that is communally giving to each other. And if you remain in me, within the sanity of the eternal unus, and I in you, you will bear much fruit. Or it's almost to say you will regenerate. But that's just what I want to see in it. So a little enunciation of what Godhead must be. And back from the ending of what eternity might start at, back to the beginning. Breath from beginning is the vine. That we're all, given everything always, and it is in everything, not only in everything, but God gives us the capacity to choose correctly. This is what I was preaching about this morning. That there's a voodoo of what you do, that we always have the intelligence to survive, thrive, learn from and forth the moment at hand. So we interact as a surplus and a reservoir in the communal reality. Just trying to hone, focus, and laser beam through this. Breath from the beginning is the vine. We're always given intelligence. We're always complete. We're always whole. And that's the funny, the duality again of rock and rock on is the whole of gravity and being the whole of infinite singularity, of entirety, of being completeness. So the wholeness and the completeness in the rock on of the duality, of the double depth moment to moment salvation and forgiveness from one salvation into the next salvation. And the salivation of the balancing of the animal kingdom, the fungal child and the plant kingdom's giving, the fungal kingdom's child and the plant kingdom's giver. So we can have a surplus and a reservoir of knowing. forgiveness and Jesus' fruitful way, in that which we wish, we dream, we find funny, postulate, we experiment. And really, what we're doing is we're exposing and illuminating what the true way is. So we know in the surplus of the natural world that mistakes will be made for joy of exploration, and the greater dynamic will survive. This is leading me back to what I wanted to make sure. This is leading me back in a place of peace, what I wanted to make sure I got off to the pastor. That the only authority is love. And what we share then is everything. That all is the story, and sharing is caring, and through being shared with, we can conclude that caring is God's presence, that there is an omni-meta morphogenic mind that says beautiful things with the fruit beginning with and in community. That there's a vine of I am, there's a branching of you are, and if we remain in me and you, we will bear not only fruit, but we will bear the fruit of muchness. So why are we ever given anything at all, ever? And it's always everything that we're given. We always find immense truth, solace, and gratitude in all the blessings of the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom, and the perpetual child of the fungal kingdom, for the benefit of the vine of I am, for the benefit of the branches of you are. And if we remain in meanness and eunice, we together will bear the fruit of muchness. So, approaching the beautiful moment of the 38th moment here and the 37th moment. I wish I could say more. I wish I could say more of everything to you guys, because I love you so much. And if there was anything more that I knew of to say to you, I would say it in the most muchly way possible. But as I gaze outside, I feel communion, I feel harmony with the spirit of water, and I feel balance with the kingdom of electricity now in the 38th minute of, saying ta-ta and goodbye, and as I like to say personally, toodaloo for now, and homeward bound, heartfelt hello to all of you to say thank you for tuning in, and thank you for listening keenly, and you are absolutely as respected as I respect myself, and not an ounce more. Ta-ta now.